How did the mighty Mayan Empire rise to power only to mysteriously collapse? Hey there! Ready to dive into the story of one of history's most fascinating yet mysterious empires? Let's explore how the Mayans went from humble hunter-gatherers to powerful city builders, and then unravel what led to their downfall. Get comfy, because this is going to be a wild ride through ancient history. Alright, so imagine a bunch of nomadic hunter-gatherers in what's now Mexico and Central America. They lived off the land, moving around with the seasons. But then something amazing happened. Around 2000 BCE, they started growing their own food. Corn became their main crop, along with beans and squash. This shift from hunting to farming was huge because it let them settle down in one place. Over time, these settlements grew bigger and bigger until they turned into the incredible cities we now call Mayan ruins. So these farming folks weren't content with just growing food. They wanted to build big fancy places too. By around 300 BCE, the Maya were creating huge cities like Tikal and Chichen Itza. Think of it like building a giant Lego castle, but much bigger and more impressive. These cities had towering pyramids, grand palaces, and even ball courts where they played a game kind of like soccer. They were super advanced for their time, with complex water systems and sophisticated calendars. Tikal was like the New York City of ancient America. People from all over came to live there because it was such a hub of activity. Now, let's talk about how the Maya were like ancient geniuses when it comes to science stuff. They were super good at astronomy, which means they loved looking at the stars. They figured out how to predict solar eclipses and even created a calendar that was way more accurate than anything back then. Their math was also top-notch. Zero was one of their inventions, which made counting much easier. Plus, they had really cool observatories where they could watch the movements of celestial bodies. It's like if you built a treehouse with a telescope in your backyard and spent all day studying the stars. The Maya were way ahead of their time in these areas, making their cities not just places to live, but also centers of learning. So these ancient geniuses weren't just great at building cities and studying the stars, they were also really good at trading. The Maya had a huge network of trade routes that connected their different city-states. It's like if you had a lemonade stand, but instead of just selling to your neighbors, you sold all over town and even traded with kids in other neighborhoods. They traded things like jade, obsidian, which is super sharp volcanic glass, cocoa beans, the raw form of chocolate, and cloth. This trade wasn't just about getting cool stuff, it was also about sharing ideas, art, and culture. It's kind of like how social media helps us connect today, but back then it helped the Maya stay connected over really long distances. So, next time you eat a candy bar with cocoa in it, remember that it might have had its roots in the ancient trade networks of the Maya. So, how did these ancient cities run themselves? Each Maya city-state had its own ruler, kind of like a king or queen. But there was more to it than just one person making all the decisions. They had councils and priests who helped make important choices. The rulers were usually pretty powerful though. They got to wear fancy clothes, live in big palaces, and even had their own personal guards. Now, how did these cities get along with each other? Well, sometimes they were friendly neighbors, sharing resources and ideas. Other times they might have been rivals, competing for the best farmland or trying to show who was more powerful. It's a bit like how kids on a playground sometimes play nicely together and sometimes argue over toys. The Maya had their own set of rules and traditions that kept things running smoothly, even when there were disagreements. So these ancient farmers weren't just growing crops, they were super smart about it too. In the lowlands, where there wasn't much rain, they built huge irrigation systems. It's like if you had a big garden, but instead of relying on rain to water your plants, you had a way to bring water from nearby rivers right to your veggies. This helped them grow food even in dry times. And guess what? They also figured out crop rotation, planting different crops in the same spot each year. It's like having a rotating menu for your garden. This kept the soil healthy and made sure they had a steady supply of food. The Maya were so good at farming that their cities could support thousands of people even when times got tough. So next time you bite into some fresh produce, remember the clever farmers who helped make it possible. Now let's talk about something not so shiny in the history of the Maya, how they impacted their environment. Imagine a big playground filled with trees and animals. The Maya were like kids who loved to play there, but sometimes they got too enthusiastic. They cleared large areas of forest to make room for more farms and buildings. It's like cutting down all the trees in your backyard to build a huge sandcastle. Cool at first, but not great for the ecosystem. This deforestation led to soil erosion, which means the top layer of soil started washing away. It's like when you leave a sandbox uncovered and all the dirt gets carried off by rain or wind. Without that protective layer, it became harder to grow crops and the land got less fertile. So, while they were amazing builders and farmers, their impact on the environment was pretty heavy. It's a reminder that even ancient civilizations had to be careful not to hurt the very things that sustained them. Now, imagine if you had a favorite tree house, but one day it started raining less often and the ground got dry. That's kind of what happened to the Maya. Around the year 800 CE, things took a turn for the worse. The climate changed and there were big droughts. It's like if your water supply suddenly dried up. Hard to survive, right? These droughts made it tough for the Maya to grow their food, especially since they already had problems with soil erosion from cutting down forests. Without enough food, people started moving away or dying. It's a bit like how you might leave your treehouse if it became too hard to play in. The changing climate and lack of resources led to the decline of many Mayan cities. So next time it rains, remember to appreciate it, because even ancient civilizations needed water to thrive. Alright, so things were going great for the Maya, but like any big family, they started to argue. Around 800 CE, a lot of city-states got into wars with each other. It's kind of like when you and your siblings fight over who gets to play with the coolest toy. These wars weren't just about land. They were also about showing who was the most powerful ruler. Plus, there was a lot of fighting among different groups within each city too. It's like if all the kids in your school started forming their own little gangs and bickering over which one is best. All this fighting made it hard for the Maya to work together and take care of each other. It's a bit like how you might be less willing to share your snacks when you're not getting along with your friends. The political fragmentation was like breaking up a big Lego castle into smaller, less stable pieces. This fighting and division weakened the Maya Empire, making it easier for other groups to step in and take over some of their lands. So, what happened to the Mayans after all that amazing stuff? Well, it's like a big puzzle that archaeologists have been trying to solve for centuries. When the Spanish explorers arrived in the 16th century, they found the great cities empty, like someone left their house and never came back. The Maya had disappeared, or at least gone into hiding. Over time, people started digging around these ancient sites, finding amazing artifacts like pottery, carvings, and even human bones. It's kind of like being a treasure hunter in your backyard. Today, scientists use advanced tools to learn more about the Mayans. They look at things like pollen from old trees to understand what the climate was like when the Maya lived there. And they use 3D models to reconstruct the cities as they were hundreds of years ago. It's like playing with virtual reality toys, but for real history. So even though the Maya Empire is long gone, their legacy lives on. We learn about them not just from old books and stories, but also from the amazing things we find buried in the ground. And who knows? Maybe one day, you'll be the person who discovers something new that changes everything we know about the Mayans. Well, there you have it. How the Maya went from humble farmers to incredible city builders and then faced some big challenges. History is full of amazing stories like theirs. If you want to dive deeper, check out some documentaries or visit one of those ancient ruins. See you in the next video.